Yeah, Fred will join here in a minute, but just in this period of time, let me go ahead and call this regular meeting of the Operations Planning Committee to order for Tuesday, June 17th. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Why don't we just start with the minutes so we can get that out of the way. I've been through them and I had a couple of edits in planning and zoning section there. It says in the first dot point in the first survey and the consultants with no apostrophe, take out the at before 100 Tokenique Road in the fourth point. And then under RTM, a vehicle donation, actually for at home in Darien. And it looks like there's some date confusion there at the very end when we approve the minutes from the time. So I've supplied all these edits to Linda, so I think we're all set. Did anybody else have any edits for the minutes?
Other than the date, the only thing I had under the Parks and Rec, the second bullet, it was talking about the Weed Beach bid. I think it was more quoting you, but it said that we were going to pre-structure.
Yes, I have that down as restructure.
Restructure. Okay, you got that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from May 20th?
So moved.
Okay, Laurie moves. Jim seconds. All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right. Just because I can and because I'm intensely interested to see what she has to say, let's start with our state representative, Tracy Marra. Tracy, thank you for joining, and hopefully things have calmed down a little bit for you.
Thanks. Yes, they have. And I am going back through my notes through the session just to kind of get updated. And I will let you all know, and I'll be sending something out at large as well, that I will be doing a legislative update. It'll probably be the week after 4th of July, just so that we can get everything organized and get the information out. And it'll probably be one from the House. So the other state representative, Tom O'Day, who represents Darien, will join me and we'll get that information out. I can give you, maybe I'll just hit a couple of the highlights and teasers, and then you all can kind of join or ask questions as needed. And we can talk more in depth on the legislative update. But I think one of the things that most everybody is concerned about here in Darien was the housing bill. And this is HB 5002 that was pushed through, and this legislation came out. Honestly, it was the same day as the energy bill. So it, was a lot going on at that time. And we are, for those people that are not aware of what is going on with 5002, it would put mandates. Last session, we dealt with fair share. So this was the idea that we need X amount of housing across the state of Connecticut, and that someone behind the scenes was going to decide how many houses each town was going to have to build in order to meet what that need is across the state. The focus really was on the affordable houses, not necessarily houses at large, because we know we need workforce housing, we need single family housing as well. But this really just focused on the affordable housing. And we also know in Darien, well, most people do know that in order to build affordable housing and have it be done in the market, that you have to have market rate housing done at the same time. And that's how multifamily housing units actually can build this. So we calculated that we would probably need another 10 multifamily housing units of 350 to accommodate this. And in order to be prioritized or not deprioritized for any sort of grants coming from the state, we would actually have to put in a plan on where these housing units would go. And that is in fact a mandate that we have to put that in. So I clearly voted no on this, and many people from our neck of the woods voted no, even those, and many of us understand that we do need housing and we'd like to find ways to to get housing and to support that. This is a mandate that our towns cannot handle. So we've asked the governor to veto it. And many people have written in to ask him. He is away right now. We expect him back later this week. He is in discussions. My understanding is the governor is in discussions with the chairs of housing, and he may not veto it. He may do kind of a handshake deal and say, let's change this in special session, and kind of, he knows that those numbers that are required on the municipalities are, in his words, stupid. So, you know, I don't know where it's going to go from here. I'm waiting like everyone else, unfortunately, but we should hear something soon.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Tracy? Okay, all right, Mr. Palin.
Yep, happy to kick things off here. We actually have a meeting tonight. We have a relatively light agenda, one small transfer, and we're going to review financials as we do at every meeting. So not a lot actually to report here on the Board of Finance side.
Okay, very good. Let's see, Jill.
We just had the opportunity to celebrate a lot of graduations. Our 5th graders did their stepping up during the week last week. Our 8th graders graduated on Friday, and our seniors graduated last night, all of which are wonderful celebrations, and we wish everybody well on their next steps. Our last meeting of the year will be next Tuesday. We will, there are 2 matters that are particularly of interest. First, it is Dr. Addley's last meeting, and he'll be known for navigating this district through COVID, for facilities projects, particularly HHR and all of the security work that was done on our facilities, as well as the security staffing, and certainly overall for his deep care and abiding love of our students. As we move into summer, our extended school year begins Monday. We get ready to welcome Dr. Eric Byrne, our interim superintendent. He begins officially on the district July 1st. And we will kick off contract negotiations in August for the teacher's contract. That's typically a 3-year cycle, and we are at the end of the 3rd year, and we'll begin negotiating the next one. That's all I have.
Okay, Jill, thank you. Lori, Parks and Rec.
Hello, everyone. The commission meets tomorrow evening, and we have on the agenda voting on the increase to the dog fines as follows on the fine established by the RTM. We did discuss it at our last meeting, the May meeting. There seemed to be consensus to move it to the $100 to be consistent as was requested. So we'll have a follow-on discussion from that on that tomorrow night and hold the vote. I've not received any, input or anything from the public, because, usually we like to discuss things, have it out there for a month before we make the final decision. So unless other commissioners come back and say they've had a lot of feedback, but so far I've not really heard anything. So that should be taken care of tomorrow night, one way or the other. We also had a discussion about, reviewing fines in general. There's different places in our rules that talk about, basically you can be fined for any infraction in the parks, but you have some things that are very minor, other things that I would consider more serious. So we decided to get the dog piece in place because that was sort of a hot topic in town right now. And then going down the road, we'll look at more of how, if we want to think about doing more definition and increases of certain types, certain types of activities. For instance, to me, like picking a flower is a violation, but that's a lot less serious than somebody, for instance, starting a campfire or something. But of course, we have the discussion, which I think was consistent with the RTM about, the issue of enforcement. And, you can put the fine in place, but that we need the support with the enforcement. So I think that was somewhat of a common discussion with what I heard at the RTM meeting. The Baker Playground, the accessible sidewalk was completed. That looks great, and they had to tear up the grass quite a bit, but the new grass seed is down. So that finishes all 3 of the ARPA-funded playgrounds in town. Baker, Cherry Lawn, and McCammon all have been very popular, very successful. I know I live fairly near Baker, drive by there a lot, and I've seen a very, very notable uptick in the number of children and families using the Baker Playground. So that's really been a terrific ad. My thanks to the group of volunteers. We had a nice group of people with, school-age children who really consulted and helped us with that. So that was terrific. We're expecting the delivery of the pickleball overlay for the Weed Beach paddle tennis court next week. So hopefully the staff can get that installed and up and running for the community in the very near future. So we're looking forward to testing that out this summer as a good and fairly cost-effective way to add some pickleball capacity during the summer to the town. So that should be coming soon. Hopefully they, as they get it down. I know the staff's been, I'm sure P&Z has been really struggling with all of this rain we've had, and it's kind of delayed a lot of the different things that they're trying to get done. We are waiting any day really now to get the bid packages for weed and pear tree. The weed, we're going to make some fine tunes to based on conversations with Ed Gentile, and Dan Biggs from West End Sampson spoke to some of the contractors. So a little bit of restructuring of the bid packages, and we hope to get that out, as well as the package for pear tree. We expect to get that out to bid. I think Dan was targeting for by the end of this month. So quite soon. So we'll see what happens with those once we get them going. I think that is it. And just I mentioned this last month, but just a reminder that the Cherry Lawn 50th anniversary celebration is a week from Saturday, the 28th, from 1 to 4. And they've planned a very nice family event. So hopefully people can turn out for that. And the rain date, that's Saturday, and the rain date is Sunday. So. And I think that is it.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Any questions for Lori? All right, next up, Lois, sitting in for Seth.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Some notes from the RTM highlights. In the budget meeting, the continued future significant increases in the town and Board of Ed budgets was highlighted and is of concern. I know all of you have heard that many times, but I wanted to reiterate that. We gratefully approved the donation of the sedan from the At Home in Darien and the Darien Foundation, and with a very special heartfelt thank you from one of the members of the RTM about the much needed and valuable services provided by At Home in Darien. That was a very special commentary. At the RTM meeting last week, the process for approving picnic tables and chairs for Great Island created much discussion. We pushed the item forward to not hold up the process, as our scheduled next meeting is not until September. But many of the questions and comments by RTM members were about the short notice and lack of specific information. Our request is for more complete information be brought forth on proposals and sooner, with the RTM meeting calendar as a consideration. The RTM accepted on faith that this new equipment was needed quickly. We are interested in knowing when the equipment will be available for public use. Thank you, John, for the timely video with TV 79 with your comments about the state housing bill. We were able to show it at the end of our meeting and get the information out to the full RTM. We appreciated the message and its timeliness. Following the issue of the harbor ordinances, following the public hearing last week on the changes to the harbor ordinances, the RTM committees will continue working on this over the summer, with the expectation that we'll vote on it at the end in our September meeting at the end of the month.
Okay, thank you very much.
John, I have a couple questions for Lois.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Lois, first, paired with your discussion about process, was there any discussion about the RTM schedules? Having been to you all for appropriations multiple times for various building committees and for the Board of Education, one of the most challenging pieces of the RTM is the structure of it, that you have to go to rules to 2 different subcommittees and then to the RTM itself. And the RTM runs on a very prescribed cadence that is somewhat in conflict with what you're describing, which is making sure that all the information is prepared and exactly right, or that things are done in a more on a just-in-time basis. So I wondered if there had been anything more. I found that a challenge working with the RTM. It's difficult. I think members of the RTM have attempted to work with fellow members of government, but the actual structure of the organization is somewhat challenging. I think, again, for a reason to keep things on a certain cadence and because it's a larger body. But it does get in the way of some of the just in time, or sometimes of having something ready exactly when you all need it.
I hear what you're saying, Jill, from being on the other side. I mean, the rules meeting are 2 weeks before our, first of all, the committee, I'm just going to tell you what it feels like on my side, but I hear what you're saying. Most of the committees, we've started assigning committees to projects or issues we know are coming up way earlier than we did years ago. In other words, as soon as we hear of something, we assign committees. We don't wait until the paperwork comes in and that's what we're doing. So, and I think I'm hoping that it's from everybody's viewpoint that there's more teamwork involved with the committees and all of the different boards and groups that we support. The rules meeting is actually 2 weeks before the actual votes by the RTM. So it's hard for me to conceive that 2 weeks before the information, we're ready to vote, that the information wouldn't be available. So maybe a conversation about what's coming on. I'm not quite sure how to follow up with you, but I think that we need to understand if there's some things that we could do, because 2 weeks before a vote would seem to me that the information should be available. But that's just me on the top of my head. So
I think it's probably not a full conversation for OPC, but I would say, like, for example, when we were on on the building committee side, we were on a state imposed deadline, plus the RTM imposed deadline, plus when the actual monies are available, plus trying to make decisions happening in the November, December timeframe, where there's a lot of prescriptions about what can happen. You guys deconstitute yourselves and then have to reconstitute yourself. So looking at that time frame, if government bodies need decisions to be made, that is a challenge. I'd say the second piece is that you don't meet in the summer. So if you have decisions that may run into the summer time period, that can be a challenge. So I just would say that if you all are going to talk about the need for more information and wanting a specific process to be followed, I would suggest that you pair that with a conversation about some of the limitations that exist with your body, and that sometimes other government bodies have to figure out how to accommodate. I completely agree with you that the members of the RTM are always flexible and have always tried to work with any organization that I've been in and has approached the RTM. Absolutely, the individuals involved have been wonderful, but the organization itself does have some structural inflexibility.
Oh, I will be happy to talk to you about it further.
Yeah. I guess, Jill, from my standpoint, maybe reacting a bit to last Monday's RTM meeting, I think when appropriations or other decisions follow the normal prescribed decision-making process, where it first goes to the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Ed, and then it goes to the Board of Finance, and then it goes to the RTM. Presumably, when the Board of Selectmen or Board of Ed are making their decision, all that information is available and therefore available to everyone down the line, including the Board of Finance and RTM. And then when the Board of Finance makes our decision, well, that's always 3 or 4 or 5 weeks before the RTM votes. So if all of the boards before the RTM have all the information to make their decisions, that should kind of naturally make it be available to the RTM.
I found it less challenging as a Board of Ed chair than I have as a building committee chair. So I think I would put that out there. And I would suggest that if you look back at the times where the process has been something that people have complained about, building committees or the like have been a common vehicle because they don't often follow that same cadence. And very often they may have other kinds of deadlines, such as state deadlines that they're trying to figure out. So, for example, we got caught several times trying to meet a December deadline for the state for their construction process that didn't work very well with our deadlines on the town side and how we run our government. So anyway, enough for OPC, I'm sure, but I think it's something the RTM may want to contemplate as if this issue is on the table. My second question
Lois,
for you, Lois, was related to what you were saying about the size of the budgets. Could you characterize a little bit more what the nature of the conversation was and who was having it, not by name, but what was that conversation so that I can report back to my board?
I think that would be a good conversation with Jack, and he did the reporting on the budgets, and I'm happy to set up something or show you the highlights from what was said at the RTM meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And Lois, from your comment about not having all the information, was that referring especially to like last Monday's meeting where you guys didn't get any information ahead of time?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I
And
know everybody, we all realize what happened, and I'm sure we will all make changes and make sure that things get followed in a different way in the future. And I'm
Yeah,
sure,
I think-
Jim, you've probably heard also, well, some of the comments that were raised in that meeting. So it
Yeah,
did.
Yeah, so maybe just to clarify, since there were like 68 people at the RTM meeting and many watching, right? It was a couple things. I do continue to believe that the best process is the one where it goes to the Board of Ed, Board of Selectmen, then to the Board of Finance, and then when it does make it to the RTM with you and all of your colleagues, you have all of that information and the benefit of all those discussions ahead of time before you're asked to vote on something. And I think, you know, another thing I just point out for everybody on the phone here and for those listening, that it was mentioned at the RTM meeting that there was some process by where the Board of Finance intended to override, overrule, go around the RTM in terms of appropriating that. I just want to make it 100% clear to everyone on this phone that myself and members of my board have been very focused on making sure every decision around Great Island goes to the RTM following the normal process and with all the information and time that they should have to make that decision. That like the assertion that the Board of Finance, if you guys did not approve it, was going to somehow jump over you or jump around you and approve it anyway. I don't know where that came from, but I want everyone to know that that's not the fact.
I agree with you totally.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else we can beat up on Lois about?
I may not come back, John.
He can take it.
No.
No, we appreciate it. And finally, Fred, sitting in for Mr. Albani and Jeremy.
Yeah, hey everyone. So just some updates here. P&Z has been continuing to work with its planning consultant, Hardesty in Hanover, on the updates to the 2016 Plan of Conservation and Development, with the plan expected next year. We're meeting about once a month with Neil Desai on progress on the plan. Neil's the rep for Hardesty in Hanover, and is doing a good job representing H&H on the development of the plan with the commission. The results from the townwide survey were released to the public on June 11th. About 1,189 respondents to the survey, representing roughly 8% of the adult population. And we've scheduled the first POCD public workshop for July 9th. That's going to be in the Mather Center Cafe at 7 p.m. Just real quick on the legislative front, of course, the commission is very closely following the housing bill, the HB 5002. And just to expand on what Tracy had to say earlier, another particularly concerning provision of the bill, in addition to the fair share, is that it eliminates parking requirements for residential developments of less than 24 units. Most of our multifamily developments are less than 24 units, and now we have ADUs as well. So you can see how that's going to be potentially impactful in many ways. So I think that I guess the governor has tipped his hat, and that yes, he may sign the legislation, but I guess that potentially comes along with the caveat that the legislature addresses some of these real problematic issues in a special session. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. The commission is taking a look at a few different zoning text amendments currently. The Planning and Zoning Commission put forth amendments banning smoke and vape shops as well as tattoo parlors in the town. Those proposals had support from the police chief, the director of health, many other departments throughout the town. There was really no public opposition to that. The commission will be voting on that, and it's likely that those changes would go into effect sometime in July, later in July. There's amendments being put forth also by P&Z relative to the updated 2025 Stormwater Management Manual that's been in development in consultation with the town's consulting engineer, Ty and Bond. That manual is going to go into effect, we think, towards the end of August, and the regulation amendments relative to that new manual will go into effect sometime in the beginning of September, likely. And P&Z has also been considering some amendments to the design business zoning or zone in town to encourage some small multi-unit family developments, and that was put forth in connection with a multi-family housing development at 104-108 Old Kings Highway North. That's a property or a combination of properties directly next to the Trader Joe's property on Old Kings Highway for 8 additional multi-unit 8 additional multifamily units. Great Island, just to expand on the Great Island discussion, the past month or so, P&Z, of course, approved a plan for tables and chairs around the stables and benches around various locations on the island for the benefit of the public, just to take in the nice views of the sound. And just wanted to hit here on a couple of the high-profile sites in town, starting with Heights Crossing, V20 Group, Vaccaro, the Vaccaro project on Heights Road. We anticipate this opening on July 1st with temporary certificates of occupancy to be issued shortly on the commercial and residential portions of that project. Nearly all the commercial space is leased, and many of the apartments are as well. And then Goddard School, which is part of that development, will be opening for the new school year in the fall. V20 Group, Vaccaro also just recently, I believe just this past week, purchased 90, 100, and 188 Heights Road. Those are the Epicomputer and Life Study Fellowship properties at the corner of Edgerton Street and Heights, as well as the dirt parking lot directly to the east of Edgerton. The Vaccaros are likely going to demo the 2 buildings in the fall. There's no definitive plan for the use of the property at this point, but the zoning district that covers the site, the Norotan Heights Business Zone, is pretty flexible. We think P&Z is encouraging Class A office space to be developed on that property, but we will see what happens. The Corbin District, obviously lots of work continuing on that property. We expect the Corbin parking garage to open soon for employees and construction workers. and in time for the sidewalk sales, which will be happening early to mid-July, I guess July 10th through 12th. Not intended for public parking at this point, but will be open to employees and construction workers. And then about maybe two of the Corbin buildings are framed out, and we expect those to be enclosed soon. The 3 Parklands Drive property, the applicant is going to be coming back before P&Z for modifications of court stipulations relative to the number of residential units that have been proposed there and some changes to the site design. So we expect that to happen in the coming weeks to month. And then 275 Post Road, the Darien Diner, the commission just recently approved some outdoor dining for the diner. And other than that, you know, P&Z is seeing a steady stream of what we would consider typical residential and commercial projects in town, and things are going well. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Fred. Any questions on P&Z for Fred? Okay. Just briefly for me, I know we've kind of piled on the housing bill. We've spent all collectively a lot of time on it. I just want to emphasize to everybody watching that this is bad for Darien. There's nothing good in this bill about housing for us as a town. And I would argue that for the state, trying to come up with ways to efficiently build affordable housing, given limited resources that we have, it seems to me imprudent that you would try to concentrate housing like they're planning and build it all in areas where land acquisition costs are so high. It just makes every unit of housing that you build that much more expensive. And when you put it in towns like ours that are 98% built out and where we are not far from capacity on things like infrastructure and schools, that really could put us in a bad way. And I know a lot of us have reached out to encourage the governor's veto of this bill, and I can't stress how important that is. I've been in government for 17 years, and I don't think that I've seen such an outcry from affected towns on any legislation that I've looked at in all that time in government. This is not good for us, and everybody needs to be aware of it. I point out one other phone call that's been had recently about transit-oriented development. In the slide deck that the state presented and discussed, they talked about the Doneit parking lot, which is that lot that's in between 95 and the tracks, as well as one of the lots that the state owns at the Darien train station. Both of those are on a list for the state for development of transit-oriented housing. And because they own that property directly, that's housing that they can force through. And that, if it happens, again, would significantly impact the folks in town who are depending on those lots for commuter parking. So all the vectors that are coming at Darien for everything that they're doing with regard to housing are uniformly bad at this state. So more to come on it. Let's see what the governor finally decides to do. One thing that once that is clear, we will be working pretty hard to come up with a strategy for our town to respond to that in the best way that we possibly can. So enough said, I think, on that. Finally, I just wanted to say that I was at the high school graduation yesterday, and it was a joyful celebration. It wasn't just joyful for the students who were graduating. There were 2 teachers who were retiring, who all got honorary diplomas. Even Dr. Addley himself got one for his impending retirement. And it was just great to be around so many people who were happy to be there, happy that it wasn't 100 degrees like it was last year. And I just want to do a particular shout out to Jill, who gave a terrific speech at that ceremony. She touched on advice for young people, and in that regard was one of the best speeches I've heard in quite some time. I'm going to capture that video and actually send it out to some folks, but your speech was absolutely first rate, and I just wanted to thank you for that. And I've seen a lot of these in the past. If you haven't seen Jill's speech, please take a look. It's really, really just over the top. So, but all in all, a great day. And I got a good picture of kids throwing up their graduation caps, which I'm happy to sell for a small fee. No, I was sent it out for free. In fact, I posted it on Instagram, which means I won't get paid. All right. I think that's it from my end. Any questions for me? Oh, Tracy.
And John, you may want to pop in here too, but I know I actually had 2 students from the high school, seniors that have finished their classes, their AP classes, and they did internships. So, Declan Schweitzer and Lily Kilwetter joined me for their last few weeks of school. And I know you had some too, John. And I think that, it was a great experience for me, and I hope them. I've asked them, they were so excited to be at the State House learning about government, and they are intending to write to the new superintendent to ask him to reinstate the trip that used to happen for 4th or 5th graders to come to the State House. I think they believe that it would be a really nice addition to education. But shout out to them because they were phenomenal students, and I hope to continue that in the future.
Yeah, we had 2 great interns here that I work with, Nikhil Arajan, who worked on some town meeting guidelines that I think will help clear up a few issues that we've had for meetings really all over town government. And also Harris Cabana, who, in addition to redesigning our flag earlier, helped me work through some parking strategy that we're going to have for our commuter lots and for downtown. Both those young men are outstanding, and they had a chance to go up to Hartford and spend time with your 2 interns, Tracy. Both of them got a ton out of that visit, and it just reinforces your point. Anything we can do to get kids exposed to government and process in a cool building like the state capitol, I think is terrific. So if we have interns next year, we'll definitely send them up your way. It was outstanding. The whole thing really worked out well. I was really happy about that. So thank you, Jill, for lending us a few of your high school students to come
Absolutely.
see all the thrills and joys of municipal government.
Yes.
There's no
Yes.
shortage.
That government piece is wonderful, but I think you guys are absolutely right to bring up the program, because the way that our community comes together to support all of our seniors who go to work for about 6 weeks at a lot of different businesses and government around town, for nonprofits around town, I think is a very special feature of this community. And there are many, many organizations that we are grateful to for their support of our now graduates.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I just thanks for me as well. If you are a small business in town and have not thought about signing up to support the internship program at the high school, I think both Tracy and I will attest that these were high quality interns. I got a lot out of working with them. They did real work for me, and it helped. And I'm sure they would for anybody that needed an intern for a short period next spring. Okay. All right. That's all I had. Unless anyone else has anything else, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Oh, second.
Okay. Jim moves, Jill seconds. All in favor? All right. We stand adjourned. Take care, everybody. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry. This is our last meeting for the summer. And our next one, we will resume this meetings of this group in September.
Thank you.
All right.
Happy summer.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.